No transitions.
Okay, let's begin with a word of prayer. Thank you, Heavenly God, for the wonderful opportunity of being together once again, for the blessing of meeting with these wonderful people. I ask you that you may guide us and you may bless us in our endeavors for trying to understand truth and for the time that we live in and the momentous events that are still ahead of us. All these things we put in your hands in the name of Jesus. Amen. Well, thank you, everyone. Um, I've been trying to look for some names, see if I met any one of you. Uh, but I'm not sure yet. I'm Pedro. I'm from Venezuela, but I don't live there. I live in Uruguay, and I'm very happy to be with you all and share some thoughts, have some conversation, hopefully strengthen our faith and our understanding of truths. I would like to begin by giving a quick context of where I'm and where I think we are at the present time as a movement. As context, I think we all understand that we've been through in the past 2 years or something. We've experienced, we've seen the development of the Sunday law message. Um, I come from the perspective of someone who had a divergent and different view of the Sunday law than others had as well. Um, I came to the conclusion 2 years ago that I thought it was not only my duty, but also my responsibility to be faithful to my conscience, to speak what I thought respectfully, and to be open minded, um, to learn of any truths, any corrections, etc. And I think time has proven that it was not only beneficial but necessary. The whole process that we went through, which is it wasn't only me who had an idea about Sunday law or a study or whatever. Um, it was it, it was many people, um, probably more than we know. But we know about the five Sunday law speakers, and in my understanding, it is a representation. It represents the maturity of the movement when we, after so many chapters in our movement's history, we're we were able to sit down, talk, discuss, you know, consider each other's views, and find the truth. And as I think most of us know, last year in October, we experienced a very remarkable moment in our movement history when, after the whole Sunday Law initiative, we arrived to I think I could say, a general consensus. At least that's my understanding. And that was my understanding in October. I know there's still a divergent view on the Sunday Law. Um, but I would say, for the most part, even in October, there was some kind of agreement among the five speakers. That's at least how I recall things. Um, so that's a little bit of the context. And now we've spent most of 2026 speaking about what was opened up in October, which we could summarize it as being, Revelation 17, and how Revelation 17 adds or complements the messages of the Sunday law that were given before. Specifically, I'm referring to Quintus Fabius Maximus Gurgis, which Elder Terry was raised to present to us the messages of the Sunday law. And Revelation 17 came to strengthen that and confirm that view. And I'm sure to open up the door for many more things to come. I think as recently as last week, we already saw some developments of advancement of the light. Uh, for example, the 10 Kings, I really like the comments made by Elder Parminder about that. So that's a little bit of the context. I think the Sunday Law initiative for this year is to expand a little bit on what we understood, make sure we are all on the same page, make sure we are able to discuss the questions, because it's not about because five speakers went into agreement that everyone else is in agreement too. People can have, and there's no wrongness in disagreeing. The wrongness would be in not being open to, talk about those points of disagreement, if any. Um, so I would like to, this is a huge group, so I know maybe participation is going to be a little bit complicated, but I would hope we would have some feedback if possible. Today we will only have one study, and I hope we may take the most out of it. I would like to go directly to Revelation 17. We know the Sunday law message, and the fact that it was July 18th of 2024 stands by its own only with QFMG. Quintus Fabius Maximus Gurgis contains everything he needs to provide the proof for July. Then there is the gatekeepers. But then comes along Revelation 17, which in its own carries a lot of weight because it's revelation. Acts 27, which is where ultimately QFMG is derived from. Acts 27 is a book of, is a historic book of actual events that happened, whereas Daniel, and in this case Revelation, it's a designed, it was intended to teach about prophecy, to teach about the things that we draw lines about, the kingdoms, etc. And not Acts 27. Acts 27 was intended for whatever Luke, whatever reason Luke had in mind. He wanted to spread the story of the wonders that God did for that early church, and for Paul and for everyone in the ship. I'm talking about Acts 27. But Revelations, it's a book given directly from God. There's no ideas or, I don't know, biases from John. Of course, he's subjected to the times of, and the context of his age, but John is pretty much given what to write, right? The same as the visions of Daniel. They don't come from human minds. So this is God, and that's why we we believe Daniel revelation are the foundation for our prophetic truths. And if it's not in Daniel revelation, then how can you be sure? That goes, for example, to me when I had the study about Acts 27, and my conclusion was different than July 18th. It's all fine. We can do that. But can I support my conclusion using Daniel Revelation? That would be the big question. And when Revelation 17 came along, it was clear what was the outcome. So what we know is we know some things about Revelation 17. It's an incredibly deep and profound chapter in so many levels. And there's still so much that will come out that it's still in Revelation 17 that we don't know. But when it comes to the Sunday law, I think we all know that the conclusion and the agreement among the five speakers publicly already, the Parliament has already agreed with it. And if you have followed, even though we always knew he was leaning towards one position than the others, he was very careful to not publicly endorse it, but he already did. I think that's important. But the most important thing is that there was an agreement that was arrived by the people that had the different views, and that is very, very important. The great controversy in itself, it's a work of agreement. It's the fact that there's a church that agreed to certain rules, principles, laws, and whoever abides by those and is within the movement, then it's fit for heaven. Then the universe, it's also doing a work of agreement. The universe has to agree that we humans can be reintroduced to the universe kingdom, right? And it seems to me that they have, or they're very, very close to agree with that, because I think we are soon arriving to the close of probation. Whether it is this year or not, it is very soon. So agreement is very important. So given that we have this context from Revelation 17 and the fact that it supports July 18th of 2024, I would like to know if either anybody is not in agreement with that, where there's no wrongness in that, or maybe there's still questions strictly related to July 18 and Revelation 17 that were not yet fully answered, or maybe some details that we should discuss. Does anybody have any question, or there's something that you don't fully grasp or understand about Revelation 17? And I think that would be the best place to get started. We'll give some time for people to get the courage to speak. If no one does, I will assume everyone is in the same page and Revelation 17 is fully understood, and there's no doubt on anyone that Revelation 17 speaks about July 18. Any comment? Question? So if everyone seems to be on the same page, I hope you don't mind I ask some questions and I expect some answers. What marks the Sunday law in Revelation 17? Who could talk to us a little bit about that? What is the Sunday law in Revelation 17? Any
Hi,
comments?
Pedro.
Hi,
Hi. Okay.
thank you.
This is Brian. I'm thinking of fornication in Revelation 17, verse 2.
Hmm.
Um, verse 2 sounds to me as if it's generic. Um, you know, generic in the sense that it could be referring to, I'm not so sure about that. It could be referring to the 1260 and somewhere in the future.
So 17:2, you are highlighting the word fornication.
Yeah.
And you would say this word is the one that is going to mark the Sunday law?
At least, but I think I need time to clearly show that in Revelation 17 because I'm feeling that it's out of bias. I'm saying so.
Okay,
Um,
it's
be-
fine.
uh, Maybe I would say for me, Revelation 17, maybe it's not so much focusing on the Sunday law, but the transition from one kingdom to another. But understanding that there's now the aspect of the woman, I think now based on other models or other stories, you then start to realize that there's this something about the Sunday law and it's connected with the woman and the beast.
Okay, then you're bringing up the woman as well. We will try to unpack that. But commenting on what you just said, yes, definitely, Revelation 17 is speaking about the kingdoms and the transitions, and probably it's focusing on one transition more than the other. Whatever that is, there are several topics spoken to, and maybe there's a main topic. But do you agree that we use Revelation 17 to prove July 18th? Do you agree with that at that level?
I would say yes.
Okay. And if we do it saying that that July 18th is the Sunday, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay,
Now,
so yes, go ahead.
that to me would be, um, I don't think if we can entirely establish Sunday law mark from Revelation 17, um, but I think what Revelation 17 has about the Sunday law is information. It has information regarding that Sunday law. And it's my belief that it could be from other models. We establish that Sunday law waymark, and then what Revelation 17 does is explaining it. It has information of what actually is happening at the Sunday law. Yeah. And
So
that's what now maybe I would call fornication. Yeah, going further to other models like Matthew 5, then you start to see that it's fornication on a certain level.
exactly, because we need to use the Bible to define fornication. Like I know there's a model we can construct with Matthew, but it's not like Revelation comes with a dictionary and says, and whenever you find this word or that word, that means this. So we use the Bible to define what fornication is. We could use Matthew 5, but we could use other verses. We could go later to those. Um, So if Revelation 17, it is speaking about several things. Among those, it's the fornication of the woman and the kings. And we emphasize the seventh king. And we say, when that fornication takes place, that is the Sunday law, and that is July 18th. Is it fair? Is it fair to say that we can find July 18th using Revelation 17, even though we take the definitions of, for example, fornication from um, from Matthew, but our definition of, I don't know, horns, which is also in Revelation 17, we take it, if we go chronologically, we would say, well, that comes from Daniel, right? Like it's normal that we would go to other places, but that's still the story that Revelation 17 is saying. So I guess you're okay with that. Is anyone not okay with the fact that Revelation 7:2, which speaks about fornication, that fornication is the Sunday law? For context, we need to remember the fornication would be this. The whole thing is fornication, right? The whole period, how much it lasts, we don't know. But as long as this woman is with the king, they are committing fornication. So that we agree. It's a period and things are being done in that period. Now, when we say, how do we mark the Sunday law? Well, we just want to know when it started, the same way we do with the time of the end. So if fornication is the Sunday law is a whole period, uh, then when did the fornication started? And that would provide us July 18th. Is that something you would agree with? Did you say Brian? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Do you feel comfortable with the way I put it, or would you say it differently?
Okay, sorry, like did you put the fornication experience in what dispensation have you put it?
And
Where are you
for the
marking
sake
it?
for the sake of the study, this is only the seventh king.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay. Seven king, you said?
Yeah,
Seven king.
or kingdom, whatever.
Yeah, I think on a simple level, I would say yes.
We know she committed fornication before with other kings. That would be the, what's it called? The panoramic view. But then if we go dispensationally and we focus on our dispensation, the final one, then we would say, yeah, she committed fornication again. This time it's the so-called seventh kingdom. Now, what we want to discuss is, what I would like to ask now is, it can be for anyone else, please participate. Given this, how do you find this moment used in Revelation 17? I would like to, see the way you lay out your arguments. I just want to make sure we all agree and are on the same page. How do you find the beginning of the fornication and how that proves July 18th? Anybody? who wants to speak? Titus, you wanted to say something?
Hi, Pedro. Yeah. I just wanted not really. I just wanted to say how I remember it is.
Please do.
We said that there has to be a beginning for that fornication, which you have marked as a period. There has to be the beginning, and I think we talked about the uh, power being good, and then that the entity that has power um,
Mm-hmm.
does it for human rights reasons, but there comes a point where the human, which is an entity that has bad ideology, um, unites or commits fornication with that entity. Yeah,
With another entity. Okay.
yeah,
And Titus, if you don't mind staying with me, um, so you're saying that for fornication to happen, there has to be a minimum of two entities, people, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And you would say you already mentioned woman, the woman of Revelation 17, and who else?
Um, we have the woman and we have the beast. No,
She writes the beast. That would
yeah,
be,
the head. I think. Yeah,
yeah. But if we are faithful to the, let's say, logical, to the natural, it has to be another human, right?
yeah, yeah, sure.
That's why
Yeah.
Brian said in Revelation 17:2, because if you go there, it says kings, which is a
Oh, yeah.
human symbol.
Sure.
We know it means foundation of power, and then we say it is the throne. That's when we get to the spiritual, to the real thing. Um,
Yeah.
but when we stay on the symbol, we would say yes, it has to be. It's a human symbol. It's
Mm,
called king. So we have two entities, as you mentioned, and you say, well, whenever they commit to fornication, it has to start at some point. That would be our Sunday law.
yeah.
Waymark.
Yeah.
Um, how would you determine the beginning of that fornication?
I think we went to our human experience, and I think from the Bible, but in our own human experience, it starts with the heart and the
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
The
yeah,
mind.
yeah, the mind, yeah,
So you're saying that there's something not physical happening,
yeah,
not a physical action. That's really nice. Now, a second or follow-up question would be, who has to commit the not physical action for us to say that the fornication happened?
the king.
Why the king and not the woman?
Sorry, I, I want to change to the woman, but um, at this point, let me think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I think you're right, actually. Um, I lost my screen. Oh, okay. Um, let's put it in
Pedro,
the
sorry,
following
can you
way.
see the chat? Someone's written in the chat. I don't know if you can see it, can you?
I was trying to, and then I lost my screen.
Oh,
But now I can see it. So
okay.
it says the relationship between beast and woman. I'm not sure what that was answering, but just recently it says woman flirted with the throne. But this we get from the story of Matthew, I guess Matthew 5:28. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Gladys. So I think Gladys is in the same page as Titus. Probably the wording is a bit different, but there's something when you use the word flirting, it's a not physical action, right? But here's where I want to be very careful. What is the physical, the non-physical action that we are expecting to mark the beginning of the fornication? What is it? I will say it again. What is the non-physical action that marks the beginning of the fornication? I will open my Matthew 5:28 as I wait for any of you. What do you think is the action that marks that fornication? Who wants to read? I will read it and you tell me. Someone says lust, Sabina. That would be, are you saying that lust there it's, okay, Robert expanded it when you said Sabina. It says looking lustfully. So what is the action then? Look. We will skip lustfully because we will assume that's what will happen. That's what happened actually. But the action is looking, which means there has to be visibility. This is really important. Now, there's something we say like this. I think we sometimes forget, but I think we all know this. The Sunday law, this, now I think of it as a terrible way to explain what we believe that way against Sunday law. Doesn't make any sense. But the Sunday law that we know, it is a sinful action. It is a sinful thing that happens. It is very important because it is committed by a very important entity at a very important moment. But it is sinful. And here is where we need to find out that the beginning that we're talking about is a sin. This is the way that we're looking for. We're looking for a sin that began in a certain moment. So when do you think the sin of the woman started? I give you some time to think about it. We're looking for a sin. The word fornication is that. It's a sin. And that would be what we will mark as a Sunday. So one of these two entities are going to sin. And that sin is going to mark the Sunday law. When does the woman sin? And when I say the woman, I'm not talking about the panoramic view. I'm referring to the seventh kingdom. A woman who is bad is going to commit a sin. When does that happen? Nobody has any idea? You can just put in the chat if you want. Okay. I will take that as I don't know. So even if we don't specifically say when does the woman sin? Oh, Sabina, you want to say something?
Hi, Pedro. I just wanted to try.
Yes, please.
So I'm thinking that the woman is already an whore or a prostitute even before she entered into a relationship with the king. So I'm not sure where specific to mark, but I just have an idea that she is a prostitute before even she meets with the king.
So she's been sinning already. And then someone is saying, I think he's agreeing with you, before the Sunday law. So if she's sinning before the Sunday law, and that's how she's presented to us, she's presented to us with, this is a horrible, awful topic, about prostitution and the way that the Bible speaks about it. But it says basically that, you know, her professional career, it's that she is a prostitute, that what she does for a living. So fornication, prostitution on its own, through, you know, the framework of the Bible writers, that's a sin. And she's presented to us sin. That means her sin cannot be the sin that marks the Sunday law. So whose sin? The only one left, which is the king. That's why it has been said already that king, it's good. We know it's good. It has to be good. It was created by ourselves. If you go by the definition of the, you know, the Greek, the word king there means foundation of power. We need foundation of powers. Any institution does, you know, for taking decisions and taking care of certain things. So king by its, you know, is inherently something good, but it will sin at some point. So it wasn't sinning. That sin started. And that's what we mark as a Sunday. So we have already advanced to some of the clues. We have Revelation 17. In verse 2, we have fornication. It's a fornication between the woman and a king. We're referring to the seventh king. And we would say that the beginning of that fornication is the Sunday. And for some reason, we believe that to be July 18th. Then someone said, I think it was Robert, if she's already sinning, it has to be the king. We need to look for the king looking lustfully, right? So we need to find the moment when this king looks. That's the action that we need to find. When does the king looks? This is a wonderful way of time setting. It's amazing. If you go to QFMG, Quintus Fabius Maximus Gurgis, one of the names is dedicated to the timing, which is Quintus. Then Fabius is dedicated to the topic, the context, the framework in which is going to happen, which is the election cycle. That's why it's called Fabius. It means democratic process, election cycle, etc. And then we have Gurgis, which will tell us this is a flood, which means this is the king of the north. So the name Fabius is dedicated to the timing. But when we go to Revelation 17, it's not that there's something dedicated to the timing, It's just the fact that if you know who the king is, if you know who the woman is, if you know how the fornication starts, and that's where we are at. We know who the king is, we know who the woman is, and we know that it's the looking that will give us the starting point. Then we just need to translate those symbols, and we will find our starting point. So I would like to do that with you. I will go again. We have a king and we have a woman. I will put a woman here. For sake of time, I'm just going to say what I'm pretty sure most of you agree with. The woman is Trump. And then we have the king. Can someone quickly remind me of what the king represents for us?
Hello, Pedro.
Yes.
Okay, this is Grace. So
Thank you,
before
Grace.
yeah, actually, I'm not answering that question. I'm seeking a clarification before you continue.
Of course.
Um, so you are telling us the story of Revelation 17. We have the king. If you can pull it down, please. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that one. So, from your story, are you implying that both the king and the woman they are looking at each other, or what do you mean that the king looks? It's a point where we can mark fornication. I don't understand that, please.
Okay. So I will answer it going through this imagery down here. So if we have Trump, and that's the woman, put here woman. Can someone help me? What is the king today? What is this seventh king? Not throne. I know the answer is correct, but that's not what I'm looking for. Perfect. Not any country, but it's the presidency of the USA. So Trump and the presidency of the USA, which is a throne in today's words. And that's what we would call the king. The issue that confronts us is that there's a sin that's going to happen. And that sin is going to be between two people, and it's called fornication. Fornication, in its general understanding, is a physical action between two people. It is sinful. For several reasons, it can be sinful. There's several ways to perform a sinful act of fornication. But these two people are going to engage in this sin, which is physical, and it's intercourse. So they will go to bed and they will have sex. That's basically what is being told. Now, I know we jumped a lot. It seems to be you're all aware of that. Someone already mentioned Matthew 28, 5:28, where we say it is something that happens before the physical action even. It's not simply an idea on our heads. It's how, could say Jesus, we could say the Bible explains fornication. It happens in your heart. You do it in your mind. So if you did it, that already happened. So you already sinned, is what I'm trying to say. What we were saying, and I think was it Sabina that said, the woman is already sinning because she's a prostitute. She's presented to us with that label. So let me put it in a different way. She is already looking lustfully. This is to your question. I think, sorry, I forgot your name. You just asked the question. It's not Boaz, right?
It's Grace.
Oh, Grace. Grace, do
Yes.
you agree that fornication begins by looking lustfully?
Yes.
And if Trump is the woman and the woman is a prostitute that is already sinning, is it fair to say that she already knows the king and she's already lusting after him?
Yes, she's looking lustfully. Yes, I agree.
Exactly. And we determined before, and someone already said it, that it's not when Trump looks at the presidency and lusts after it that the Sunday law happens. Whatever day you want to give it to, whenever Trump desired, well, we will have to first determine when Trump became the bad woman, which is not to 2016, and we will then have to determine when he became the bad woman, was he already lusting after the throne? But that's completely irrelevant because we know the woman, the symbol itself, is not the marker for the beginning of the Sunday law because it's presented to us as sinning already. She is a prostitute. So this only left, we're only left with the king. We need to find the moment when the king looks lustfully. Why? Because the king is not looking lustfully since forever. It happened at some point. That's why it's called fornication, because it's a sin. At some point, he wasn't sinning. That's what sins mean. It's an action that you take. So at some point, you were not taking that action. And then at the other moment, you are taking the action. Does that make sense, Grace?
Not really. Maybe
Okay.
maybe I
Yeah.
go to get, but maybe okay. If we come to the natural story of prostitution,
Mhm.
you have this woman who is a prostitute.
Yes.
Maybe she has some. She looks for some specific characteristic from this man.
Mhm.
If I've heard you correct from your story, is that this woman is already a sinner. She's already looking lustfully, and it
Yes.
is we are looking for a point where we need to see what this man does. So, is the man
Exactly.
doing something, or maybe if I can put a language, a baby-like language, the man becomes beautiful, maybe to this woman, or we call it handsome, something like
Okay.
that.
Yes. It is related. Different story, but related, which is okay. If we have a bad woman, at some point Trump became the bad woman because he wasn't. So he became whatever that day is. I think it was said already in some study, 2021. Well, anyway, so he became the bad woman. Now, does that mean because he's the bad woman, he was already lasting after the presidency? Maybe not. We think he was not because we are constrained by the reality of the election cycle. Now, at some point, he announced his candidacy and became uh, a Republican. How's it called? He run the primaries, so he had to enter into that race, the primaries, not the campaign. This is the primaries. That tells you Trump at some point saw the presidency good looking and handsome, and at some point he decided I'm going to run for president. When he does that, he's looking lustfully. If we go to a natural setting, we have this prostitute walking around, and from afar, she's been looking for a powerful man. She finally found him, But it's not that she's talking to him. She doesn't even have access to him because it happens to be a king. But she saw it. So she already is looking lustfully. Now she will start a long planned endeavor to get a hold of him. Again, looking at the natural, this prostitute found the handsome king. Because he's a king, she doesn't even have access to him. The king doesn't even know who she is. The king doesn't even care. He's not even thinking about it. But she saw him. That's what we are taking from prophecy, that she was already sinning. And we can see that he was already running for the presidency way before July 18th. Now, when we say July 18th is the Sunday law, we're not saying that's when Trump committed fornication. Trump has already been looking lustfully from before July 18th, no matter the date, it's before. So it's irrelevant. The same way when we are presented with a woman who is a prostitute, that's irrelevant. Her sin is irrelevant because she's already doing it. Now what we care about is those kings who are supposed to not commit fornication with her when they do it. So we need to find a moment where if we go to the natural again, in the natural, this woman made, incredible efforts, and she finally got to a, point when the king could see her. She was there. She was visible. I don't know how. We don't know how she managed to get access to him, but he was able to see her, and he lost it after her. So that is our Sunday law. When the presidency is able to see Trump, then the Sunday law happens.
Sorry,
Yes.
Pedro.
Yes.
I still have a problem because if we say that this presidency sees Trump, in real life, this is someone wrote about the throne, and this power we call the presidency in the US, it's just like that seat, anyone can come and sit on it. So it doesn't have the ability to choose who sits on that throne. So the problem I have is this presidency looking at Trump. I don't know how that should look like. Maybe I have a problem to connect from prophecy to real life. Sorry about that.
No, it's actually, you're speaking my mind, actually. It is, I don't know, it is strange. First, you already said the presidency is not a person. It cannot look, it cannot decide when to look. It cannot look lustfully. That's what we think. But the Bible is personifying the presidency. It's been personifying it for all of the other kingdoms, were also thrones. Those thrones were institutions. Now, those institutions were meant to be used for good. And at some point, someone really bad is going to sit on it. And then we're going to say, well, that's the sin. And then we would say, but how? The sin didn't commit any sin. It didn't even decide. Well, we need to personify it. There's systems, regulatory rules around the throne that are the eyes and mind of the throne. There's no way around it. The throne is not a person, but it's being personified. So there's something tied to the throne that it's its eyes and its will and its desire. And that, whatever that is around it, I would say this is a very system that protects it. It's all the things that are built in with the throne. We think of the throne like this is the Oval Office only. It's not even the Oval Office. Like the White House can, disappear tomorrow, and there's still going to be a throne because we know it's not the physical. It is an institution, not walls and pillars. And a desk and a chair. The institution is a whole system. I'm talking about the presidency. Everything that has to do with how is elected, the people who sit there, to the transition, all of that, it's part of the throne. So we would say, yes, the throne can look sinfully, but that action was taken by something else in our eyes, looking at the real world, which was the Republicans. But that is the system of the throne. Okay, someone has the hand up. Before that, let me read quickly a comment. The presidency was already married to a good woman. Then at Sunday law, it commits adultery with another woman. At Sunday law, this presidency that was married to a good woman looked lustfully to Trump. And looking lustfully is deceiving because you think it's the throne who's looking. No, it's the Republicans nominating him. That's when the presidency looks. We will try to prove it if we have time. Someone else had their hand raised. Sorry.
Okay, Pedro.
Yes. Who's there?
This is Rogers.
Hey, my friend. All good?
I'm good.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to respond to Grace's question, which I think
Please.
you have responded to. When we speak about the presidency in the context of the seventh kingdom, we know it is an unliving thing, a seat, a throne. But we need to, like the word you've used is personify, we need to understand that to be a real life person at a conceptual level. That's the point I wanted to make. So conceptually, we need to conceptualize that throne as a real life person, even though it's a thing in real life.
And you're saying person would be the symbol?
Yeah.
And thing, the real thing?
Yeah, the real thing. So we need to conceptualize that seat as a person in order to make the point that Revelation 17 is trying to bring out. If we just keep it as a thing, then we fall into problems of explaining so many things.
Okay. Thank you so much. Grace, I will expand on what Roger was saying, and I want to lay out the following line. Today, we're only going to have one study, and we are arriving to the end, but I think it's worth doing the following. Let's make this line. Imagine this line, the whole line, it's the election cycle, which I would call Fabius. So you have an ending point here. If someone could go to Google, I don't know when the primaries begun. That would be here. But there's a date there. Then there's two dates. There's July 18 and August. Was it August 5, I think? Yeah, August 5th. So we have this is what I'm gonna call, this period here is called primaries. The following period, it's the campaign. And the following period is the, horrible color for the whiteboard. What's it? The transition. The campaign ends in November. Is it 5th, right? Correct me, anyone, if I'm wrong. And then the transition ends in January the 20th. And this whole thing is the election cycle. Which I would call, this is fabulous. Quintus is going to do the job for us in finding the specific month, right? But Fabius is the whole election cycle. So look at the following. Think of it this way. Oh, someone raised their hands again, or was it from before? Feel free to speak from Elder Fellowship. Nope. Okay. So think of it the following way. You go to January 20th, and I don't know, I'm not going to use the the right pictures, but feel free to give me ideas. In January 20th, these people are together, right? They how can I say it? They consummated that marriage, if you want to see it that way. They're having intercourse, and that happened there. This is the moment of the consummation. But something happened in November 5th. Oh, by the way, if this is when they're having intercourse, January 20, the physical action is the real moment when they come together. Trump didn't control and have real sex with the presidency before January 20th. It's impossible. But from January 20 onward, he's doing it in real life, taking decisions. Yet, fornication is described as a non-physical action that happens before. So it's not January 20. It's not at the end of the transition. So if we go back to November 5th, the way I would, this is probably a wrong way, but I would do it the following way. November 5th for me, you choose what symbol you want to give. I want to use a paper. There's a contract and two people signed. You could call it they got married or whatever. So you see the woman and the king are together. What does this mean? It means they know each other. The presidency knows this person already. So going to the literal, how can I say? No, going to the symbology of fornication. January 20, how long have they known each other and seen each other? Probably for a long time, because they are already sleeping together. Good. In November 5th, what happens? Well, in November 5th, it was decided that among two options, the options are these two people, right? Among these two people, it was decided, or the throne decided, however you want to conceptualize it, the throne decided who is going to be with. And it's going to be with Trump. Anyway, so in November 5th, it is decided this person has chosen someone, and it's formal and official. All good. What this tells me, if the throne is choosing, I know it's not the throne that chooses because it's people who voted, but that's the system. We are personifying it. The throne chose Trump. If the throne chose Trump, that means the throne already knew Trump, already looked at Trump, and liked him. We are conceptualizing the non-physical, what Roger was saying, what was it? The words? The person and the thing. You're personifying a thing, but you need to follow through because that's what the parable is demanding from you. So the throne, which is the presidency, chooses Trump in November 5th over Kamala. That means the throne already knows. Now we go back. If we know, sorry if the example is a little bit confusing. If we know that the throne has already chosen Trump in November 5th, I mean, the decision was taken there, then you need to go back and find the real moment. Remember, we're looking for visual contact, not from the woman to the king, but from the king to the woman, because she was already sinning, as we said. So we go back and we say, well, let me go to July. And you would say, what happened before July and what happened after July? Well, before July, there was no official candidate for none of the parties, either Trump nor Kamala were the official candidates. But at July onward, someone is going to be the official candidate for the presidency. In this case, it will be Trump. And I ask you, can in our exercise following the parable, is the throne able to see Trump before July or not? That would be the question. The same thing that we did before for January, for November. If the throne is already seeing Trump, then this is not the beginning. We will do the same for July. And I want to do an example to prove, I think, at least to me, I guess there's many ways to prove this, but I will give you the following. Let's contrast the presidency's visibility, eye contact, to our visibility, which is different. We are real people. Transfer yourself to July 18th, the day that Trump was it? He was picked as the official candidate. Ask yourself the following question. Who do you think was the candidate for the USA presidency before July 18th for the Republicans? No need to answer. We all knew it was going to be Trump, right? It was obvious. He wasn't officially the candidate yet, but we know for sure he was going to be the official candidate. Our eyes can see that. The question is the presidency able to see that? And you do the following. Let's move now to the Democrats. So we know Trump is elected here, but we know from before he's going to be elected. As soon as he defeated, what was her name? Nikki Haley. As soon as he defeated Nikki Haley, that's it. We knew he was going to be the candidate, unless he was killed. He was almost killed. So he didn't die. He is the candidate. We knew that. July 18th, before July 18th, we knew it before July 18th. Now I make the following question. Who was the official, who you and me with our human eyes believed the candidate for the Democrats was? Who was it? This one I need answers from you. Bear in mind, oops, 3 days later, in the 21st of July, what happened? Anyone remember? Who wants to have a go? I will say it. In July 21st, Biden dropped out. Oh, now you're posting it. Thank you, Robert, and sorry, I don't know who you are. Galaxy A16. Biden dropped out. He withdrew from the campaign in 3 days later. What that means is the following. If we were using our own eyes, we would have put Biden here. Switch it. Think, for example, that Biden was the bad woman, actually, and Trump was the good woman. You would say, oh, I know when the fornication happens, whenever Biden is officially the candidate. But then you go to July 21st and he withdraw, and then you no longer know who's going to be the candidate. Oh, no. Well, he said, let's go for Kamala. And then everyone said, yes, let's do it. All of this story that I'm telling you is to tell you that the way that we see things is not the way that the throne see things. The way we see things is that in July 18th, the two candidates, the two women, were Trump and Biden. 3 days later, our eyes would say, oh, it's not Trump and Biden, it's Trump and Kamala. What else could change? Someone could drop out again. That's why the throne doesn't look at who is the candidate before there's a nomination. That's why I put August 5th. Quick exercise again, similar to the one we did with Biden. If Kamala was the bad woman and Trump the good woman, could you tell me what the date of the Sunday law would be? Hypothetically. If Kamala was the bad woman and Trump was the good woman, what would have been the date? DNC. Thank you. I don't want to spell your name correctly. So the exercise proves that the convention is what matters to the throne. Personally, for me, this is the moment when it clicked. It clicked to me that we can personify the throne because the throne can see things, the throne can choose things, and the throne can lust after things. But it's not the chair in the White House. It is an institution surrounding the throne, how the throne behaves, how the throne chooses the next person. All of those things are decisions of the throne. If Kamala would have been the bad woman, the decision of the throne would have been in August 5th, even though it was made by Democrats. But because the bad woman is Trump and was Trump, the decision to look happened whenever he became visible. Someone made the question, Rispa, does it mean we would only have known the Sunday law by looking back? No, that's not what I mean, because the order of execution from God is very interesting. We didn't discover the Sunday law. The person who did and was raised for that was Elder Terry, and she didn't do it with Revelation 17. She did it with something that ultimately, oh, yeah, I don't have it here. Ultimately derives from Acts 27, and Acts 27 pointed to 273, so on and so forth. Quintus Fabius Maximus Gurgis, that witness by its own stand firm, pointing to July. But if you removed that one, I could entertain your question. But that's my answer to you. We knew the Sunday law before because there's more than one proof for it. And the first one was QFMG. So where I was, I don't know where I left, but what I was saying is, would you have now a model to prove how things are visible, not visible for the throne? There's a system around it that takes the decisions for the throne, and you can personify it. And when those systems, regulatory systems, decision makers, whatever that is part of the institution, that institution chooses a candidate at the convention of the party, at the national convention, either August or July, it doesn't matter. What matters is who is the bad woman. And is this regulatory system of the throne going to accept Trump as a candidate? They did. At that moment, Trump is visible. He's really running for president. This is very important. No one is really running for president before the national convention because they're not candidates. They are candidates for the party, but not for the throne. Sorry, for the presidency. You are only a candidate for the throne after the national convention, not before. And that's why it's called campaign from the convention onward. It is said that the campaign starts there, and it was even though in real terms they're campaigning since forever. There's a deadline that begins at the national convention, and like it's a turning point. So I think that's all I wanted to say today regarding Revelation 17, the importance of the model for us, at least for me, because I was either was unable or was not agreeing for some reason. I couldn't see when QFMG arrived. God was graceful, and it was a transition point. It was a turning point for me at Revelation 17. I will read one comment, and then I think Emma, you had your hand up. We can have some questions. Be merciful with me. Who's saying? Oh, is it Sabina? Sabina says, the throne's eye, that system that is choosing who to sit on the throne. Would I be right to say that way using the examples that you have used? Whether that statement is correct or not, I'm not sure, but I would say it that way. At least that's how I understand it today. And then from Eldred Fellowship, are you suggesting any different understanding of fulfillment as we know it now? If so, which is that in summary? A different understanding of fulfillment. What would be the standard understanding of fulfillment? Sorry, just so that I can answer. Emma, if you want to speak your question or your comment.
Sorry, I think they were just about to answer. Let them, because that's a question they're asking you.
Perfect.
Pedro, I think, to be honest, this is Brian from Eldoret.
Brian.
Sorry.
Thank you, Brian. Go ahead.
I seemed not to understand so clearly the point you were trying to make, especially in regards to trying to, consider the point or position whether the throne or the presidency is the one who, like I would use maybe the language seduces, or makes the first move or something. And because from my understanding, I see it from the perspective that it's the woman who makes the first move, or rather like lasts after that throne, when that throne is at some point where they feel it now like befits them, or they feel attracted to it. And if that's the case, then the point to mark as the Sunday law would be July 18, 2024. And, it's in regards to that, if maybe like we have a different view to who seduces or who actually makes the first move, then I think it would lead to changes. And maybe one of those changes would be, where do we mark the Sunday law we mark? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so that's
fair.
what I wanted to really understand.
Can I ask you back, from my overview of things, how do you take that? I seem to suggest the first move was made by the king and not the woman.
Oh, have you asked me something?
Yeah. Just summarizing, what I'm saying is, I believe the woman made the first move. She's the one who signed up for the primaries, decided to be there, and she wanted to be visible to the throne. So that's, for me, a first move. How did I explain? Because I would like to correct it if necessary. How did I say that actually it was the king who made the first move?
Okay. Then I think maybe I didn't understand you well in the first time. Because if you're saying it's the woman who makes the first move, then I think it's also important to consider what is the most important move you would consider. If maybe you are saying the woman has been making moves previously, then it's also important to look at what is the move to take, because amongst the many moves, for instance, if you marked the primaries, you marked July 18, you marked November 5, then there's the July, the January 20th. Then I think it's important we also maybe like consider what criteria will we use to take the most important move. And I'm saying is are you on the position that the most important move that the woman makes is that of July 18?
Oh, on the contrary, I'm saying that the most important move is the move made by the king, because she's already sinning. And the Sunday law is a story of sin. Mark of the beast is a sin. And when the Sunday law arrives, it means that someone who was not sinning sinned. That's the king. And yes, sins are actions. We know that. Sins are actions that we take, even if they're in our mind. And in this case, the action was to look with lust. So that's why I call it the most important move. Because if I try to find the most important move of the woman, yeah, well, when she decided that the king was handsome, but relevant to Sunday law, like the date, I think the most important move is the king. That would be the answer to that. Grace said, so how do we understand the throne looking under the sixth kingdom? Could you expand? I really didn't understand the question. Emma, would you like to go?
Stand the throne looking under the sixth kingdom. Yeah, I think perhaps this is what I was going to try and address, was Grace's question originally, because I think she's having the similar struggle to I was having last week. And I'm not saying I've arrived yet, because we were talking about this with Arian, I think, last week. But to me, this whole concept is quite complicated. It's terrible. And that's Rizpa's question as well. You mean we couldn't have got this until we look back? And really, this Revelation 17 one is a second testimony, but it's quite complicated to try and trace this, because we're dealing with literal and symbolic. So if we make it symbol, I was going to try and explain it in a way.
Elder.
Yes.
Elder, can you speak a little bit slow?
Sorry, I get excited and nervous and then I go fast. They always have to tell me to go. Sorry. Okay. So slow down. So Grace's question now, I think, is connected to the fact that she's struggling to see how this throne's doing anything when Biden's sitting on it. Is that kind of, Grace, where you're coming from? Or
Can you repeat it?
I don't know. Maybe Grace can explain what she's saying there, because I'm going to try and answer her question at the same time as the one she's already asked.
I think your question is really good. The
So
way
what
you're
she's-
putting it.
She's saying, how do we understand the throne looking under the sixth kingdom? So I think, or the seventh kingdom when it's good, is that what you're saying? Because we know the seventh kingdom, well, I don't know if we all know that, but the seventh kingdom we're marking as starting at 2021 under a Biden presidency. So the question we need to answer is why, I don't know if that's a separate question, why is the sixth moving to the seventh? What marks that transition? Because that was also brought up last week. But so is your question, Grace, the fact that Biden's sitting on this throne, how can it be looking at the woman? I'm not sure if Grace can explain her question.
If I understand the question, I will answer it the way that I understand it. It's that you have a good woman. We understand that to be, let's call it the wife of the king. So if we have a good woman married with the king, what I think is happening is the following. When you have an election and the system of the throne does the job properly, like the six did, the six always chose good. Prophetically, that's what we believe. So when you go to the seventh, when the system of the throne chooses, let's say 2024, a good woman, let's say that Kamala would have been elected. Sorry, that's not what I'm saying. Let's say that Trump would have never been the candidate. Someone else, Nikki Haley, was the candidate. Then you don't see the throne marrying to the good woman again. It's the same. Like the sixth kingdom was always married to the good woman, even though we know is the women.
And
so yeah,
okay.
so the only breaking point is when you change it from good to bad, and now you are required to say something changed. This is a different woman, and now let's look carefully at the actions taken by the systems to protect the throne. It's not even protect the throne, it's the throne needing to choose rightly. That's what he personifying the throne, that's what it means.
Can I just perhaps try and explain it in a slightly different way, just and see if it gives any clarity. If we say the throne is a person, the person has power. So this is a seat with power. It's a person with power, that this woman wants to get access to this person. To get to this person, there are people surrounding the person, and those people are, we could say, they're servants. You've got to get access to this person. And those servants determine who can come in and see the king, who can come in and see that power, that throne, that king, if we're going to say it's a king. But we'll say it's a king, it's a person. So, and those people allow access to this bad woman, I think, on July 18th. And if we say those people are the gatekeepers, because this is the story of the gatekeepers, the Republican Party are the people who allow the bad woman to have access to that throne, that position. Up to that point, this throne is married to a good woman. Biden sitting on it, Biden has a good woman philosophy, is married to the good woman. The seventh kingdom is married to a good woman from 21. It's the seventh kingdom. We've transitioned to the seventh. It starts out good. So it's married to a good woman. And now the flirtation starts in July, because now those servants are allowing this bad woman access to the king. And they can only actually get together in January, because now all the power has been given over. And that's a process from July to January I don't think, to me, it's confusing to put November in there because this isn't a story about the people voting. This is a story about the servants, the gatekeepers, letting the bad woman have access to the power, for me. So to me, it was a bit confusing to put up contract or anything in November because I don't think that's the story. So the story, you could put December, the Electoral College, because at this point, it's the parties who are deciding who they're going to elect get near that king. It's the Republican Party, it's the gatekeepers. And they've allowed the king up to there, then an electoral college they allow, and then they inaugurate January, and it's finally, they're consummating that relationship. And that consummation is not a marriage. This is an illegal, illicit, adulterous relationship. So now this throne has got into bed with a bad woman and has put aside the wife. So this isn't a contract of any kind, officially or legally, it's illicit and illegal. So I think that's the story. It's tracing that access to the king and that final, consummation of a bad relationship. I don't know if that helps, Grace.
It did to me,
Did
and
it?
I'm really, really thankful. If I could, comment on what you just said.
Yes, please go ahead.
It seems to me that you did exactly what God does. Once one symbol, one model becomes too confusing, and we may be stretching it to fit, then God comes and gives the second one. And then he can even give a third one. So we were discussing about actions of a human being named the king, the seventh king. And it's happened in the mind. Jesus says, you committed adultery in your heart when you look at her lustfully. But when you were trying to explain the personification of this seat that is being represented by that king, you brought up the story of the gatekeepers. And you said, let's say it is a king walking around in his palace. There's people around him that can allow or not certain women. And once these people bring up the bad choice, then we will say, oh, what you just did was bringing the gatekeeper story. That's why it's so beautiful, how everything is so intertwined. Now, the way that I would do the same thing that you just did with the gatekeepers, using the king, I want to use the mind of the king to prove the same thing. I was looking for a picture from another study. I don't know if this one's going to help. Maybe not. I'm going to do another one. You have this story, and I will address a question that I think Maria has posted. Think of it that way. This is the woman, and this is the king. This is Trump at the presidency. And you're saying, well, we know the woman is already looking, so we don't care about that one. We care about, when is the king going to look? When is she visible to him? Is he going to choose badly in his heart? We know the seventh because it's bad. It's not a bad kingdom, but it's a weak kingdom. I don't know, morally, whatever, like the other five, is going to choose bad. So we are looking at this king and we are personifying it. We need to go to the natural. This is a king, literal person. And he's there not looking at the woman. But at some point he does. And that's when we ask the question, what's in control of a human being, whether they can look with lust or not? What is that thing that takes that decision, that has that power? A human being, looking or not with lust, not looking at all, any action taken by a person. Who decides that? I would like a feedback from that one. If you want to do it, Emma, feel free to. Well, the wheel. Shadi, Sabina, they said the wheel. So what I'm saying if you can conceptualize the gatekeepers, the wheel, for me, let's call it this. This is the wheel. The wheel is going to be the gatekeeper. That is a built-in gatekeeper that we have. And it is the wheel that is going to do something. It's going to take the decision to do or not do something. That is the gatekeeper. And the way that I connect that, I mean, the way I arrived to this conclusion was basically by the other parable, the other one that you didn't mention, and that we tend to forget, which is QFMG. Gurges. Anyone knows what gurges means besides flood? Anyone read in Wikipedia what they say? I don't have it open right now. I know more or less the wording. When it says he was called Gurges because of, anyone knows? It says something around this line. Because of the, no, what was the word? Sorry?
Is it whirlpool? I don't know.
Yes, it's basically what it says. It's like gluttonous. It says gluttonous in Wikipedia. It says because of the gluttonous nature of his youth, something like that. And it says he was always choosing luxurious things and always living a life of, sinful and all crazy stuff. Like he was, and it was called gluttonous. When you, please, the people who raise their hands, keep it up so we get. I don't miss you later. When you the word gluttonous, it's strictly talking about will. That's what it's talking about. Temperance and all of that, it's about will. A gluttonous person doesn't exercise the will properly. That's basically what it is. And that's why Maximus Gurges, it's so neat, because it is talking about the story. I've said it several times. It's talking about the story of this water. It's not water that simply just appeared out of nowhere. It's water that was being contained. I'm going to make a wall, for example. You can call it the sea. God created a wall in the sea that the sea cannot trespass. You can call it whatever, the riverbank. Let's call it a dam. So this dam is holding this water, and it's supposed to always do it forever, like the sixth kingdom. But at some point it breaks. Someone broke it, whatever. And when they broke it, the water will flow. And that is the Sunday law. The Sunday law is not even the water flowing in, which is, if you read Daniel 11:41, but if you read the story of Gurges, it's not where the water floods. It's when the barriers broke. When whatever was containing it stopped doing it. So when the Republican Party was conquered by radicals throughout the years, now that Republican Party in July 18th is considered broken. So the wheel of the king, it's broken. I don't know if there's an expression in English along that line, but that's basically what it means. And when he chooses to look, he's exercising the wheel badly. What it was supposed to protect is no longer doing it. It's a gluttonous action, like Gurges. This is amazing. We could have never made this up, ever. 2 years apart, two totally different studies. It's beautiful. Grace, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Pedro. So, the last point you have explained, you have taken us to the natural story, trying to explain that woman and the king, yes, who in real life you have said it's a person. Now, my other problem with that, so if this is a real life in real life, this is a person. This
Mhm.
person has its own will. Why would then this person, I want us to try and maintain that natural. We have the person, and you have spoken about the story of the gatekeepers, that this person is using the will of the gatekeepers. So if you can also make the gatekeepers people or persons, it means they will have their own will. In a natural story, why would someone use somebody's will?
No. In the story of the king, separate model, never to be mixed. He's using his own will. In the story of the gatekeepers, forget about whatever it is that they're keeping is not important. Are they doing their job or not? Gatekeepers, separate things. Does that make sense? It doesn't answer.
Okay, and to the earlier question that Emma commented on, I think it made some sense. But what has not pleased well with me is this king looking at this woman, because that seat is ever the same. The seat
Yes.
is ever the same.
Yes.
But we've had different women sitting on that seat. So Emma commented on the Seventh Kingdom under Biden administration and remarked that Biden as a good woman. And we have the
Mm-hmm.
Sixth Kingdom where we don't see this story of fornication. So I'm not getting those two concepts very well. When you are saying that this king, this seat, this presidency is looking at this woman, and maybe the last question I will ask, not in, I'm asking in good faith, maybe
Mm-hmm.
under this discussion of who is looking and who is not looking, I think it's not the first time it is coming up. So does it mean you have a different understanding from Elder Paminda and Curtis? Because I think from what they say, it is the woman looking at the throne and not the other way around. Maybe do you have a different understanding? I understand we are in a dispensation where we should understand uh, things in the same way. Maybe, yeah.
Thank you. I don't know where to start. There was like 3 questions, but if I start with the last one, I might be wrong and I'm not blind or something. The way I see things, I believe I see this the same way I have heard from Curtis, Linda, Terry, Elena, etc. Because what I'm saying, I don't think is in contradiction. I make a great emphasis that there's something that happens with the throne. Revelation 17 wants to call it a person, but because we have other parables that also helps us. We know that what the story we're tracing is the story of a throne who, if you use Revelation 17, is a throne, but if you use the real life, is this institution within the United States that is problematic, that is difficult to control, that today appears that wants to control the world. Like we are studying this institution that exists today, and we are trying to compare it to whatever it was intended to do or what it was supposed to do. And something that happened to me in a conversation I had recently with a historian. This person doesn't believe in our message, not even Adventism, none of that, or prophecy. We were speaking strictly about politics, and I said at some point by faith, because I didn't know how to prove that. I didn't know if I fully agree with it, but I believed it because it was being taught in the movement that the throne changed over time to the point that it gets unrecognizable, and you can with full right call it different person. Revelation 13 does that. It's lamb, it's dragon. That's 6 and 7. kingdom. And I said, he said something to me, and I said, but the United States office, the president, is not the same as 200 years ago. And I was surprised because I said that by faith, because I heard it from the movement. And he replied very fast and said, oh, you're absolutely right. This is nowhere near whatever it was. So then we started a conversation about how there's real institutional changes that has happened to this throne. And what we're saying prophetically is that it's unrecognizable from 21 onward, like it's a different thing. And then this different thing that started in 21, at some point is going to take a bad decision. Revelation 17 is simply wanting us to see it as a human. It's not a human. It's the throne that we are now discussing. It changed so much that is we can give it a different title. We say 7 or dragon, and then we say, and it's going to make a bad decision. And right when the bad person arrived, the first bad person that arrived, it did. I don't really know if I addressed your question at all, but those were my thoughts, Grace, from listening to you. Please feel free to respond. Robert is saying, is it the office looking at the woman or the other way around? I guess I missed that point. First, for fornication to happen, it has to be both ways. If you could conceptualize fornication in physical terms. Now, when you go to the mind, yes, both look at each other. What we know is that the woman was looking already to the king for some time before the king knew her existence. The Sunday law is not marked by anything that the woman does. I'm talking about Revelation 17. The Sunday law is going to be marked not because the woman approached and wanted to be with the king. It's because the king took a decision to allow her in his heart. So he lust after her. It's a symbol, human symbol of fornication to explain a real world action. Oh, Sabina, thank you. Sorry for the past time. We really went over our heads. I thought we were going to do much less. Sorry we couldn't go over all of the questions that any of you might have had. I thank you all for the opportunity, and let's pray. Is there a final question, or is that something else? Sabina, let me know. I don't know. Someone just raised the hand.
No, I was just letting you. Time is up.
Hello?
Yes?
Pedro.
Yes?
This is Rogers.
Yeah.
So I think the confusion that people have with what has been presented is because of studies that Aminda has been doing on Revelation chapter 17. And when he was looking at the history of the sixth kingdom, he asked some questions. And I want to raise those two questions. Is there a beast in the history of the sixth kingdom? I think in that class, most people answered no, but he said yes. And then he asked, is there a woman in that history of the sixth kingdom? He said yes. But then went ahead to explain that that woman is not interested with the sixth kingdom, because the sixth kingdom does not look attractive.
Yeah.
So from that presentation, you can see he presents this idea that it's the woman looking at the seat, not the other way around. So when you continue, you come to 2021, I remember that question was asked by Tamina, that when you come to 2021, why doesn't first in the very first place that Tamina used the words she's on holiday or she's absent, but now has refined that to say she's not interested. So when Tamina asked the question, now in 2021, does this woman come out of holiday or absentia? Then Elpamida answered it humorously by saying she has a timer, like a baby timer, to know when that throne has become attractive. Therefore, says that woman doesn't come out of hiding in 2021, has to wait until that throne is attractive. So from that presentation, he seems to suggest it is the woman looking at the throne, not the other way around. So I think that's one of the presentations from Elder Paminda that will be bringing confusion to people like Grace.
Do you see disagreement or agreement in between what I said and him and other teachers?
Okay. When you come to the issue of what marks the Sunday law, I think many people will be of the impression that it is the woman when the woman begins to flirt with the presidency. But now you seem to say it the other way around. So I think that was what was also in my mind. But again, when I'm looking at what you have said, I also see some sense in it. So I'm wondering, is he saying something different from you, or we misunderstood him? So something like that.
I think whatever was said at the beginning, that she flirts, remains truth, but is refined. And it's not when she flirts that the Sunday law happens. Is that when she's able to flirt, because he couldn't see her. When she's able to flirt with him, when she's visible. Now, why did she become visible? Go to we're talking about visible because we're talking about Revelation 17. Well, when he decides, because it's a decision of the king. That's my follow-up comment.
Yeah, the point, like maybe where at looking at what you are saying, where it makes sense to me, is something Brand mentioned at the beginning. We are using Revelation 17 verse 2, but I think Revelation 17 verse 1 and 2 is a dispensational perspective, primarily taken back to the history of the fifth kingdom. But we know from Revelation 17, it gives us a structure that the fifth becomes a model or a framework by which to understand the seventh. So if you go back to the fifth kingdom, if you go back to the fifth kingdom, it is the king who commits fornication with the woman, not the other way around. I think for the fifth kingdom, it's easy to see. That king is a throne, but a real person in real life, committing fornication with a church, which is also a real person in real life.
You're calling that person Justinian?
Yeah.
Okay.
538.
Okay.
And the Pope, I don't know the names, the name of the Pope. So if then you take that as a parable to bring to understand the seventh kingdom, we are then forced by that parable to understand it is the king who is committing fornication with the woman and not the other way around, not the woman committing fornication with the king. So that is one point. Point number two, which is you're speaking about a Sunday law. We know from history, we have said those Sunday laws are not made by the woman. It is the king that makes Sunday laws. If you go to Constantine, the king is going to make Sunday law. Justinian, the king, is going to make Sunday law. So the Sunday law really is not made by the woman, but by the king, which is the seventh king.
Okay. That's a very relevant context. Thank you, Rogers. And thank you, everyone. Quick last one. Robert, I think the woman desires the presidency throne because it's more powerful than before. It's that power that makes the woman lust for the throne. Yes. Very important. But the Sunday law would be marked when the king lust after the woman, because that's the sin. She was already sinning. Just wanted to clear that out. Let's pray. Dear God, we thank you so much for the precious opportunity of living at this stage of Earth history, of the many things that will happen soon, of the issue that will soon confront us as we move forward. The reality of the second coming becomes real. Help us stay focused and do our best for this wonderful institution. May we have faith that in the rest of the other decisions that we don't know exactly how things work, the salvation of others, the rest of the world, may we leave that in your hands and we remain faithful to the fact that you have a kingdom on earth. That we remain, and I pray all these things in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for all the participation. It was very refreshing.
Thank you, Pedro, for the study. Thank you, everyone that joined us. So, Pedro, you can leave your number in case someone want to reach you inbox for more clarification.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right there. Make sure to copy. Leaving you then. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. We are free to leave.